Good afternoon, scholars. Today's lesson is going to be about understanding how you can take a graph and turn it into another type of graph. So we've spent a lot of time focusing on pictographs and bar graphs over the last couple of weeks. So today we're going to talk about how you take a pictograph and make it a bar graph, but also make a bar graph into a pictograph. So today's lesson is going to take a lot of analyzing. You'll have to really make sure you are reading closely with our graphs so that we can turn them into the other type of graph. So you'll see here I have an example of something that's going to look very similar to what you are going to do as your independent practice today. So as long as you are paying close attention to our examples, you will have no trouble, I'm sure, as you work independently. So my first step is to look at the graph that we have here, and I right away notice that it is a pictograph because it uses pictures. I can also see that this is about favorite fruit. So people were voting on apple, pear, grape, banana, and it also looks like based on the key, each picture represents one person or one vote. So I think the quickest thing to do as soon as you see what that title is, you should be going ahead and typing that in as your title for the next graph. Because even though you are changing the graph type, that doesn't change what the title is going to be. It's still displaying the same information. Then I know that down at the bottom is where my types of fruit need to go. So you can use the exact same label from the pictograph. And then I'm also going to put over here number of votes, because my numbers will represent how many people voted for that type of fruit. Now, you can also, when you go to do this, you're welcome to insert a picture just like they did, but I'm just going to go ahead and insert the word for sake of time. So we've got apple in the first one, pear in the second, grapes, and finally banana. So I am not going to actually need to use this last one because there's only 4 different fruits that were voted on. So that's okay. We're just going to get rid of that last box. So if I look here at the data, my next step is to make sure I'm choosing what my scale needs to be. Certainly I know that right away I need to start with a 0, but I also notice that the highest I can go is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and I can add one more here for 8. But it looks like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. It looks like apple actually has 10 votes. So that means I cannot have a scale of 1. I must count by 2s. So I am going to go ahead and type in my numbers, counting by 2s. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Might have to make your text boxes a little bigger depending on what your numbers are. 12. Although we're not going to go this high, I'm just going to go ahead and fill them in because we don't necessarily want to have the empty boxes up there at the top. So I filled in my numbers counting by 2s. And now I need to make sure that I am creating my bars and having them reach the correct spot to match up with the total number of votes each fruit had. So again, I know that apple there had 10, so I'm going to bring over my box, adjust it to the correct spot, and have this reach 10. Do the same with pear. And it looks like pear had 7 votes. So 7 is an odd number, which means that it's going to need to stop right between the 6 line and the 8 line. I'm also going to go ahead and change this color. You guys all know how to do that, clicking your paint bucket button. That way it stands out a little better from the rest. So grapes had 2 votes, so that one's actually in the correct spot already. Changing my color. And finally, banana. I'll move this over, and banana had 6 votes. So I stretch that one, change my color. Okay, so honestly, pretty simple to take one graph and turn it into another. The most important part is just making sure you've got your title, your labels, and then certainly choosing the correct scale. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at how we would go the opposite direction. Okay, so in this example, we're going to take a bar graph and turn it into a pictograph. So again, I'm going to start by interpreting my data. I see that this graph is about students' favorite colors. Okay. I see that there's quite a few different colors to look at there. And actually, we're not going to have quite enough space in the graph that I have here. So I'm just going to show you how we would do the ones that fit. I also see that their scale counts by 2, and they were asking students to vote on favorite colors there. So I'm going to take my title. That's always the first thing that I do, so that way I know what my data is displaying. So students' favorite colors. I know that this column is where I'm going to have to list the favorite colors. Type that in, and then this is where I will show my pictures to represent the number of students who like those colors. So again, I only have 4 rows here for my pictograph. I promise you will have enough when you go to work independently. So I'm just going to, again, for sake of time, so that way I don't have to create a whole new one, I will just type in here the first 4 colors that show up in my graph. So we've got red, blue, green, and orange. Okay. So one of the most important parts then is deciding what your picture is going to be and how much each picture will be worth. So my thought is, if the bar graph has a scale of 2, I should probably just go ahead and make my picture worth 2 as well. And we're a little short on space here anyway, so I think that that's what we will do. So we will say each picture represents 2 students. So I'm going to go up to my toolbar to insert a picture. You're probably not going to be able to see this based on how my screen is set up to share with you right now. But I am going to insert a picture of a box of crayons, because I know that that would be something that I could pretty easily chop in half if I need to have half of a vote. So looks like I'm struggling here a little bit to find a box of crayons. Here's one. Maybe. Miss Bailey's having some trouble. Let's try this one. Okay, so here is my assortment of crayons. Okay, so each of these pictures will be worth 1 student. So remember to use your copy and paste tool. That's how you'll be able to make a bunch of these over and over again. Remember, my trick too was to try and start with the one that had the most votes to see how far apart you need to make your pictures and how big you can make them to be able to fit. So I'm going to start with blue, which had 10 votes. And if I'm counting by 2s, that means that I'm going to need 5. So it looks like this is going to turn out to be a good size for me to use, so that's good. Keep copying and pasting. So there are my 5 pictures to represent my 10 votes. Okay. I'm going to go back up to red. Red has 8 votes, so I'm going to need 4 pictures. A little trick I can teach you is if you press the control button, you can click a bunch of pictures at once to copy and paste, and it will paste all of them together so that they stay in the same order and same distance apart. So that's a good trick you might be able to try. Green has 2 votes, so I need 1. And then orange is our lucky one that falls right in the center and has 5 votes. So I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste 3 pictures, but I know I need to make that last one just half. So when I click on this, remember when you click on the image, you can go up to your toolbar and you should see the crop image tool, which should then let you break your picture in half. Okay? So there is my image chopped in half. So it's always a good idea to look back over it, make sure you're not missing anything. Looks like I've got my title, my labels, my pictures. So again, turning bar graphs and pictographs into one another is nothing too tricky. Just make sure that you don't forget your labels, really check out your scale, and make sure you're using you're jumping by the correct amount of numbers, okay? So your independent practice today is going to look very similar to what we just did here together. So pay close attention, interpret your data, and then turn it into the opposite type of graph. Have fun!